Well, nice to meet you, Marco.
Yeah, and you, and you. I'll just give you a little premise. Did you watch the link that I sent you? I'll just give you a little premise, basically, of the project.
I saw the
Yeah,
link. I saw the YouTube video that you also sent me. I saw it all. Yeah.
so we've just been looking at artists that we follow and art that kind of stands out and kind of stands out to us basically and resonates with us. And yours really resonates.
Yeah, I noticed that you placed me fourth on the list. I wanted to be first. Why am I fourth?
Yeah. Oh, you're moving up. It's not in any particular order. It's just the ones that I came across first. But you're definitely in the top ranges. Um,
Okay. This conversation is going to be about that, not only about me, it's about you choosing me in fourth place.
yeah. No, but I really was impressed with your work. I like the how you like can portray like human emotions in the work and how you use like different elements. How it's like you don't use like traditional like you use like the splashes and the drippings and stuff. Just wanted to ask like, do you have any inspirations and influences that kind of made you do those techniques, or was it just off your own accord? You just decided to use that.
Well, I mean, I kind of believe that all art is theft, you know. I'm
Yeah,
sure that I'm drawing inspirations from many, many different sources.
yeah,
There are quite a few artists that inspire me, if not in a material way, in a conceptual way as well.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what I've been doing is, I would say that right now I kind of own my own approach. So the type of approach that I use with my paintings is mostly based on the type of person that I am, and
yeah.
I'd like things to happen fast. I don't like to to spend many weeks with one painting. I
Mm,
like to move fast. I like spontaneity. I like dynamic stuff to occur on the canvas. So I always start my paintings by throwing paint, just
yeah,
throwing paint without thinking too much of it. And where the paint falls on the painting is going to appear. So if you get like a spot on a certain place, maybe you can use that to paint the eyes of a certain subject. Or if you get a different spot just below it, maybe that could be the nose. So
yeah,
although I use images as reference and I have a general idea what I want to paint, I always start with a bit of a chaotic process. I feel that that helps me a lot to get loose, to
yeah,
feel the movement, because that's another very important thing to me is that people observing my paintings, I always think that it's very important for them to kind of feel the movement
mm,
behind the process. Like I want them to see, to feel the brush strokes, to feel the throws. I want him to imagine my movement creating that piece.
yeah,
Because when you paint a portrait, generally convey that sort of movement and dynamic to a static image.
yeah, yeah, and you portray it really well as well. I get those all through when I look at the painting as well. And did you have any specific moment or like moment in your life that made you want to pursue art as a career, or have you always been quite creative?
Well, I've always been creative. I've always been drawn to the arts ever since I was a child, really. I've been visiting museums since I was a child. My
Yeah,
parents would take me to galleries and museums ever since I was very, very young. I was fortunate enough to travel quite a bit when I was young and to get to know different places, different museums, different galleries in different countries. So, I've always been immersed in that sort of, the artistic pool, let's call it that way. Um, And I was a creative director for quite a few for some years for online marketing agencies, and I was a digital designer. And at some point, one of the companies that I work with and where I was also a partner, that company was bought by a very big online group, and I took some time off to myself after that, and then I decided to follow this passion because I've always painted, but
Yeah.
I kept that as a secondary, let's say, a secondary activity. Let's call it that way. While I was a creative director, and after this shift, I decided to make that my main thing, to make painting my main professional. My main profession, let's say. So yeah, I've been doing that for quite a few years now. I've opened my own gallery. I've been exhibiting in some countries, and I've been working with some really nice galleries. And I don't plan on turning back.
Yeah, no. And did it take you long to get like make the your paintings your main form of profession when you left your creative design job, creative director job? Was it
well, I don't really know what separates I don't know what separates I mean, when you ask like if it took me long to reach a certain standard, I mean, it depends on the standard, right? So to be a painter, it's an ongoing thing. Like it's a very strange profession because it's not only a profession. To paint is a part of me. Like I can honestly say that I would still painting even if I was losing money with it. That's why many people paint as a hobby. You don't like it's something that you use money and your time with, and you can do it even if you lose money. So I mean, painting is a part of me, and I'm not sure that I've reached a certain tier, or I mean, I think the ladder still has many steps. I can tell you, the first time I made my solo exhibition, that was certainly a nice point. Also, when I opened my own gallery, when I got my big studio, those are certainly important milestones in my career. But to say that I've already reached a certain milestone, a certain tier, I think not. I still feel that there are many different things that I want to try out. There are lots of different things that I want to explore in my painting. So it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. What sort of things are you wanting to explore more in like your future projects? Do you have any ideas at the moment?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I want to explore different approaches. I'm always trying different things with my paintings. I use acrylic and oil and silk screen, and I use construction materials, and I use cardboards and raw canvases, and there's still many materials that I want to try out and many different approaches. I want to try to cross the traditional media, like traditional oil painting, with some modern approaches, maybe some computerized and printing approaches. And I also want to try, when you use the human figure as your main subject, which I do, there's almost infinite possibilities to paint. There's the body, the face, the expressions, the shadows, the movement. So there are many different aspects about the human figure that I still want to try out. And I'm always thinking about that. Like even when I'm not painting, like today I'm here at my gallery, I'm not in my studio. So I'm not actually producing today, but I'm thinking about it. I'm always researching. I was on my computer just before you called. I'm researching. I'm taking notes. I'm, thinking about the next pieces, next series. I'm always, painting in my head. the painting starts with your head. Like the actual
Yeah.
act of painting, the actual act of laying paint on a canvas, you know, that's difficult, but that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is what goes on inside your head. You know, to visualize what you want to create is much harder for me, I think, than to actually do it. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And so you know, you said you base your paintings of like human faces, human bodies, all that. Do you have like a live model while you're painting, or is it all off a photo or imagination? Or yeah,
Well, I've done it all, although I don't really enjoy working with a live model.
mm,
I get, you know, I feel too impatient. I
yeah,
don't like to be observed when I'm painting. I don't like the idea of having like another set of eyes in my studio when I'm painting.
yeah,
That's why one of the reasons that I don't really do, you know, those, how do you call it, like timestamp movies, like, you
yeah,
know, when people keep asking me to do, you know, those movies where you set up a camera in your studio and it just keeps filming throughout the entire act of painting. I've done, you know, some things that are close to that, but I feel very self-conscious when I feel observed. And
mm,
every time that I feel that I'm being observed, whether that is by having a different person in my studio or by having a camera pointed at me while I'm painting, you know, I don't feel that I'm at my best in what I'm doing. So
yeah,
I need to be alone. I need to be in my own space to create. So I think using live models before, I don't feel that works very well. So I prefer to photograph them. And then I use the photos as reference in my paintings. Some photos I take, you know, myself. Other images I find on, you know, newspapers, magazines, on the internet, on movie clips. I'm always looking out for it. If something catches my eye, I, I first, you know, I try to capture it, and I always have like a book of references that I revisit and revisit and revisit when I'm starting a
mm.
new series.
Yeah. It's interesting you say about the self consciousness you feel if you someone else is in the room, because I make music myself on my laptop, and I feel exactly the same way. If someone's say asking me to watch my process, my creative process, I'm like, nah, I don't want, I don't want anyone to watch it. And
Exactly. I mean, it's
yeah,
just you need to be focused, right? Like
yeah,
imagine you creating music, and you know, and while you're creating music, there's you know a different background sound going
mm,
on you know on the other room, and you can hear it. So
yeah,
you're hearing that music, and you're also hearing what you're creating. That's no good. I mean, you can still create something, but divided, right? So need to be focused on what I'm doing, and I don't want to be thinking about, you know, being or getting tired or getting impatient or asking me stuff or you know, I prefer not to um, you know, use photographs or short movie clips.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that work process. And I read on your website that you 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 had decided to do your career change, which you mentioned earlier. But how did you find the difference like in your life? Was how did you find the workload what coming from the creative director into solely doing paintings? Was it a bit more of a relaxed lifestyle
Right.
for you, or did you feel happier doing art
Uh,
solely? Yeah,
well, I'm definitely happier. Yeah,
yeah,
that's for sure. I'm definitely happier. I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't say that I'm more relaxed
yeah,
because when you depend on yourself, like when you're an entrepreneur and you depend on yourself to create a business
mm,
and to you know make a living solely based on you know your own productivity, you get a different type of pressure. You know, it's different than when you work for a large company, and of course, much of the work depends on you. But you can also, you know, depend on other people, on teams of people, and you know, the entire company does not rely exclusively on you. So when you are an entrepreneur, whatever it is you do, whether it's painting or a different thing, but when you work for yourself by creating something that didn't exist before, there's pressure in that, man. There's really, you need to treat this like, for instance, I always say that I really don't believe in inspiration in the way that many people talk about inspiration. Like,
Yeah.
I can't rely on inspiration in order to paint, right? So imagine that if you go to a dentist and the dentist doesn't work unless it's inspired to. Like, what is that? I mean, you can't really, if you rely on inspiration, you need to treat this as work, as serious work, right? Whether it's raining or it's sunny outside, or you need to treat this as work, and you need to paint when you hit. I mean, of course, you need to be inspired in order to create something with value, but you need to always be looking for that inspiration. You really can't wait for it to reach you. You need to reach out for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And
so I wouldn't say that my life is more relaxed. I would say that I'm happier for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not a relaxing job. It's not. I'm not relaxed. I'm doing what I like, and that is a reward in itself. But there's pressure, and I can't relax, because when I relax, in order for me to relax, I take some days off. That's it. I take some days off, and I'm not in the studio. I'm not doing research. But I treat this as I have to treat this as a business. Otherwise, no food for me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree. And can going back to that point of, like, you work as a creative director. Would you say that while you were painting, while still doing that creative director job, would you say the paintings you do now are much different to the paintings you did back then, or have they changed? Like, relating to how your life is now, like, has your style changed as you've progressed through life? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd say that, I mean, the subject is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But I feel that the paintings that I'm doing now have more depth to it, because I'm focused specifically in them when I'm creating them. So when I was working for marketing agencies or online agencies, your phone is always ringing, you're always getting emails. You don't really have the time to focus in one thing for an extended period of time. So I would say that my work now is more detailed, is more acute, is more has more depth to it than when I was a creative director. That's what I feel like. That's the main change, I would say. I have more time to dedicate myself to it, specifically. So, I take advantage of that.
Yeah, so you have more you can focus more on producing better quality of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what would you say the most difficult thing you've encountered whilst doing your art professionally?
Wow, the most difficult thing. Well, I mean, there's one for sure. So I live in Portugal.
Yeah.
And in customs here and the tax authority in Portugal, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly complicated in terms of bureaucracy. And the tax system here pretty much treats citizens as criminals right from the start. And so to deal with customs is an incredibly difficult part of my job. So I deal with a lot of customs. I ship most of my paintings. So I have some help in that front. Nowadays I have some help. But even so, it's not getting easier. Governments and tax authorities and customs are by far my main thorn. I hate them all. I hate politicians. Hate them all.
Yeah.
If I mean, aside from that, from that bureaucratic part of my job, that unfortunately depends on governments and on politicians, which are the worst beings in this earth. So aside from that, I'm it's a bit frustrating when when you have that sort of painter's block, pretty much like writer's block. But when you know that you have something to say, but you haven't found the words to say it,
exactly.
When you have something stuck, like in your mind or on the back of your throat, that you know what you want, what you're feeling, and you feel the need to bring it out to the world, but you really haven't found the words yet. You don't know how to write it, or you don't know how to say it. That's always a bit frustrating as well. But now I've learned to live with that. Like I've learned the gymnastics around it. I've learned how to let that feeling marinate, and to make a few attempts on painting something, and if it doesn't work, I paint on top of it, on just make a few trials. I work around it, and I end up reaching to where I want to go. So I end up controlling that frustration, which doesn't happen with customs. I don't control customs or the people there. So that's really the worst part in my life.
I can imagine.
Custom authorities and government and whatnot. It's awful.
Yeah, I can imagine it being quite a long process. But so, is that the advice you'd give to people who are suffering from like a creative block or a writer's block, artist block, to control the frustration? Is that how you'd word it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would give out advice. I mean, whatever works for me might not work for different people. But what I found works for me is I'm usually always painting like maybe 3 or 4 paintings at the same time. Yeah. Like when I have a painting that's drying, I just painted a layer and I'm letting it dry, and then I'm going to work on a different one while that one is drying. So that helps me to keep the same rhythm, keep the same production rhythm, but it also helps me to stop and think a little bit if this is going well, or if it needs correction, or even if I'm stuck at some point, if I have that painter's block, I will keep on painting on a different piece. So I'll keep on working on a different piece. So what I would suggest for someone to that has the same problem is try to work on different pieces at the same time. Yeah. And when you're stuck in a piece, just continue working on a different one. Don't wait for the solution to come to you, in the middle of a dream or something like that. Just keep working, keep trying out, keep like actually working, like actually laying paint on the canvas. Keep ruining materials and keep spending money on new brushes and paint, and don't stop until you feel that you've reached some divine inspiration. Just keep grinding, and you'll find the answer. You'll find the answer in the end. And if not, just then it's because the work is not ready. Like it's the same thing as asking when a work is done. Like when do you feel that your painting is done? I mean, I don't really know. I just know that at some point I stop painting. That's it. Yeah. I don't know if it's done or not, but I know that at some point I stop painting.
Yeah, I get you. I have a similar sort of process when I make my music. It's just about keeping proactive, isn't it? And at some point you'll stop, and maybe you'll go back to it. Maybe it's finished like that, but you keep being proactive.
Exactly. I mean, if you keep busy, maybe your own self-questioning will soften up a little bit. If you keep busy, maybe you'll be easier on your self-criticism, which, it's important to be self-critic, but like to hammer yourself on the head, that's not helpful, right? So I think you should always keep busy, keep grinding, keep producing, and you'll get to the answer eventually.
Exactly. And I'll basically the opposite to that last question. What would you say the easiest things you've come across in the art world since being art professionally?
The easiest. Well, no one's ever asked me that. People normally are more interested in knowing, the hazards, the difficult parts, what's horrible, not. So the easiest. Well, the easiest thing. Let me see. I would say that the easiest thing is to start. People say that's the hardest thing. Like, just to take the first step, it's the hardest thing. I don't agree with that. Like, because my process is just to just throw some paint without thinking too much of it. I always think that that's the easy part, in the sense that I'm not really thinking that much about the painting at that point. I'm just feeling it, I'm just throwing paint without thinking too much, see how the painting is falling on the canvas, seeing how it's making these drippings and splashes and whatnot. So I would say that's fairly easy. And then the difficult part starts. When you start to try to make something out of it, that's the difficult part. But the easy part, it's just to let yourself go and just throw some paint on the canvas, feel free, don't think too much of it. And, at the same time, there's a really nice reward feeling that I'm getting when I'm doing that. Like, I enjoy doing that. I feel very free. I don't know what the painting will turn out to be exactly. So I really enjoy that moment, that freedom that I get at the beginning of a painting, where you get a blank canvas or a blank piece of cardboard or whatever, and just throw the first layer of paint. That's fairly easy, and it's the seed for what's coming out of it. So I would say that's probably when I feel more free, and it's the easiest part for me, just to start something without thinking too much of it.
I have similar sort of feelings when I make music as well. When you throw like a random melody out, or like you start it, and it's like you're quite excited to see where the process goes, how it ends up. Do you feel it's the same sort of way?
I believe you. I mean,
definitely
music and painting have many things in common. And I always paint while listening to music. And generally speaking, I choose music that, it depends. I mean, sometimes I enjoy listening to songs or music that I already know, and then I can get into the rhythm, and maybe that I will transfer that rhythm onto the painting. Sometimes that happens. Other times I like to be surprised, and I just put some sounds, some the abstract sounds, or that sort of improvised jazz, something that doesn't have a specific rhythm to it, just to make me not to fall in the same cadence, in the same rhythm as the song, because otherwise that might be transferable to the painting, and I might not want to go in that way, So, but I always work with sound. Like, I don't like the sound of, my own breathing when I'm painting, or the sounds of clicks in the studio, or hitting, wood crackles and stuff like that. I don't really enjoy that. I don't enjoy that absolute silence.
Yeah, no, I get you. And it's nice to have music on in the background, while you're working away.
For sure.
I'll finish with one last question. Have you got a favorite piece of artwork that you've done, like like ever, or is it constantly changing?
Of mine,
Of your,
like of mine, or
yeah, of your own work, and maybe one that you favorite of a different artist as well.
okay. Well, I mean, I, I try not to get, let's say, too attached to my own work, because
Yeah,
otherwise I may have trouble selling it,
yeah, yeah,
and so I mean I have some personal paintings that I've created. Some of them are commissions to people, that I've photographed and that I know personally, and those type of works are always very personal. And of course, there are also many different works that I've created throughout the years that resonated with me at some level, because of the emotion that I was feeling during that period. I can say that many paintings that I've created during the couple of years, the last couple of years, the pandemic years, while I was confined and while not. Those are some special pieces, and
yeah,
I wrote on the back of the paintings that I've created while in confinement that this piece was created while in confinement,
yeah,
because it was a different time, it was a different period, a weird period, and so what I was feeling then was something that was not many people have felt, because fortunately we haven't had that many pandemics.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was a strange time, and to be working and to be creating and to be creative during that time was just weird, just weird. And so those pieces were special to me in some way.
Mm,
And thinking about pieces from other artists that have had an impact on me. I mean, I like many different types of artists. I really like the Renaissance painters,
yeah,
but I would say that from the Renaissance painters to Basquiat to really modern painters, I like many different things. But I would say that the work of Caravaggio,
yeah.
the Italian painter,
Mm,
has probably been of a particular influence to me, and seeing his work in museums has had an impact on me that was very profound. The way that he depicted light and form and shape, and the way that he turned religious figures into mundane subjects, I feel that is very interesting, and very, very ahead of its time. So I would probably say that the work of Caravaggio is one of, at the top of my head, I mean, it's
yeah,
probably one of my main influences.
yeah. No, that's cool. And so you said earlier you find you try not to get too attached to your own work, so that you can sell it easier.
Right.
Have you ever had any work that you've done and you're like, no, I don't want to sell that at all. I want to keep that for myself.
I have,
Yeah,
I have, I have, but um, I end up, but like I don't really close that door. Like I have a few pieces at home,
mm,
that sometimes my wife goes to my studio and she likes a few of my paintings, and she asks me to bring it home and we hang them on the walls. Although I much prefer at home to look at different paintings, look from other artists,
yeah,
because I'm already looking at my own work for most of the time.
yeah,
So I like to see different things hanging on my walls. But I understand that she wants to have a few paintings of mine at home, so I don't mind.
mm,
So when I have those paintings at home, there have been a couple that I felt as my own paintings. This is for me to see. I have this at home. It's not in a gallery or in a public space. So the only people that are going to see these pieces are me, my wife, and the people that I invite for dinner or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But even then, even those pieces, I've sold a few of them. I may, sometimes it's a bit more difficult to me because I have this at home. It works I don't really do decoration based on paintings. I mean, I think of these as separate things, but I understand that some paintings work better in the space than others. So, I'm a designer at heart. So yeah, but so I've grown attached to a few of them, and I still have a few of them at home. But if someone really makes an interesting offer, and I'm not just talking about money. Like if a friend of mine has a special anniversary and is really fond of a certain piece, and we have history together, and if there's a special context being created, I don't mind letting it go. I'm not just when I say that I don't grow too attached to the paintings. I'm not just part of it is because I need to think as a businessman, but also I need to be open to contexts, to different things. Like I enjoy to go to different houses and see my paintings there. I enjoy to visit my friends and to know that they have paintings hanging on their walls that I've made. So there's reward in that as well. So I mean, although I've created a few that I've grown attached to, in the end, I believe that just everything goes.
Yeah. And would you?
I'm not going to be buried. I'm not going to be buried with my paintings. That's not my plan.
Yeah. And is that what you'd suggest to people, like up and coming artists or like other musicians or other creators? Are you saying that you should try not to get too attached so that you can, if you want to make it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would probably suggest that not only in terms of, conducting a healthy business, but also so that you can focus on different things. Like if you get too attached to a piece, to a painting, how attached are you going to be with the next piece, the next one that you still haven't created? Like one thing that I usually say is I only feel true love for my next painting. That I don't know how it's going to be, but or better yet, I only wish to feel true love for my next painting, because I really can't be in love with my current work. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to say. Like if I feel that, right, this is done, I'm in love with these pieces, and this is so great that I don't want to be separated from these pieces, so I'm not going to sell them, I'm not going to give them away, then okay, so just stop there. Then don't create anything else. Because I want to be always creating, I want to be always thinking about the next piece, I always try not to get too attached to my current work. So I would probably suggest that as well. I mean, as I said, it's healthy to do in terms of business, but it's also healthy to do in terms of your own productivity. Don't get too attached. Otherwise, you won't be able to focus on new things.
Yeah, cool. That's a nice place to leave the interview, I think. Thank you for
Definitely. Thank you, Marco. This was a really nice interview. I enjoyed the questions and I enjoyed our time together.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the chat as well, and you come back with some really interesting points of view and advice and suggestions. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.